Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, that don't sound, I hear no enthusiasm. Morning. Too early, I guess. All right, should we wait on a few more? Or are you ready to start? Because I could start with the papers that I received and the persons who are online. You want me to begin or you want me to, let's wait a few minutes. So I have Angela, I have Dimitri, Ivania, Simone, Miller, no. Okay. All right, let's start.
Morning, Miss Archer. Annie Hepburn, she said to let you know she's online, but she's listening, but she can't take part today.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good. I've tried to be, I need some feedback from you all. I got these papers. Those, everybody know who sent it, because as we go through it then, you will also know. But I have an issue with these drafts. If I were marking these, there's certain things that come out in the way in which you are writing. There's a lot of repetition, saying the same things in different ways, as if you're trying to, I'm not sure if that is what you're trying to do, which is make the word count, but there are a lot of repetition. Speaking like if I was actually marking these as the examiner, repetition. The point I made from the very first set of drafts that I received, these answers they're not coherent at all. They're like, you start and then you go all over the place and then you come back. And some of these, the language that is used is not professional English. And I know they take off points for that too. When you have to explain a process or explain a product, in some instances you could tell that the student doesn't understand. Maybe you do understand, but just not writing it properly, or you don't understand. Because some of the things that are said are just, they're just not right. What else can I say? When you set out your answers, the answers has to be clear to the examiner. And I think I told you all this before, has to be clear to the examiner that you've covered all of the elements that they've asked you to. Remember in the last class, I said, go and take your drafts and put little subheadings. You remove them later, but it will aid you in trying to answer the question accurately and coherently and prioritizing what you have to say. You can't just throw everything in there and expect the examiner to pick out what's the answer. So remember when we did the first question, I said, evaluate the issue. Again, I got these papers and you are not telling me what is the issue. And in some instances, when you state what you think the issue is, that is not the issue. So what I decided to do today, I'm going to do it the opposite way around now. For each one who gave me a paper, I want you to tell me, so get your papers out now, tell me, what is it that you're trying to say? Like I said before, the questions B and C are easy, but your answer has to be succinct. You can't be repeating the same point over and over again. That's not what the examiner is looking for. He wants to see the depth of your knowledge. How wide have you read and how deep have you gone in researching this whole topic of AML and terrorist financing and proliferation of weapons of mass destruction? That's what they want to see in this final paper. Have you grasped this topic? Are you speaking that language? And can you sit after getting, this is the first half of the designation, but can you sit in that chair after 9 months, after the next course, after the 9 months for the next course? Can you sit in that chair and be an assistant compliance officer, moving up to compliance officer, then to an MLRO? Can you do that? And to do that, you have to have that depth of knowledge and you have to be able to speak this language. And I can see in some of these, you're just repeating the same thing over and over again, and it won't work. Not for the grade that you're trying to get to leave this section and to move into GRC. It requires a little bit more if you're trying to get a good grade. Because one thing you don't want is to fail this paper and then have to write another paper. Because in some instances, it's usually more difficult than this one. So let me start with the shortest paper first. Ivania.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have your paper in front of you, right?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. Now I don't want you all to get discouraged. You may feel that I'm being hard on you, but I'm just trying for you to get the best grade possible. And also so you can begin to train your mind when you move into the next section. Because the next section is more difficult than this one. When you're ready, Ivan, you tell me what you're saying.
Which one you want me to pull up? A? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I have it up.
Okay, tell me what you're writing.
Okay, so in the, hold on, is this A? Oh, yes.
How did you
In
approach the
first
question?
Oh, okay, well, I just tried to give like a general overview and then include the legal part of it. And well, okay, I basically looked at the three, I think it was 3 or 4. Oh, give me a second. Okay, yeah. So I looked at the 2 acts, and then I tried to tie those in with the mechanisms, to basically say how the acts and I guess the mechanisms correlate. And then I tried in the next paragraph to talk about the issues that are caused by the mechanisms. I listed, and then from there, the next paragraph, but basically, yeah, I wanted to say the problem that it caused for the law enforcement. Then I tried to give an example. And then the last one was supposed to be, how could I, ways in which we could avoid, avoid the issue. Well, I wouldn't say avoid, but what's the word?
How many words is this?
Hold on, I have to download it because I have it open in Google Docs. But I think I was, last time I checked, it was at like 1,200. Hold on, I could double check right now.
Is Omar on the line? Yes, he is.
Yes, I am. Morning.
Okay, all right. You're next. So get your paper out. Don't work with the word count, Ivania. When you get it, you get it. So let's start. This 50-point question is a 50-point research question. So just by looking at your footnotes.
That's why it's not enough research.
No, it's not enough. No.
Okay.
Now, I may repeat myself with other papers, but listen carefully. Everybody look at the question again. You all are missing. First is your style of writing. And second, you are missing what the issue is. Now, remember from the very first class, I keep telling you, what is the issue? I can't tell you what the issue is. You need to say what the issue is. So starting first with you, Ivania, what is the issue? What is it that you're writing about? I want you to tell me, what is this issue? Because in your paper, I don't see where you have started off with your issue. And you have not given me a thesis statement. So I don't know what you're writing about. Remember, this is a research question. So you have to let the examiner know, 1, introduction, which means you're telling the examiner, you know what this question is about. You know what this issue is about. Then you give a thesis statement. This is your approach to the question. And then you start looking at the elements that the examiner is looking for. And the elements is what I said to you all in the last class. Use a little small subheading just to guide you as you settle your thoughts. Now, some of you have the information, some of the information already in these drafts, but you're not setting them out coherently for an examiner to be able to pick up your paper and read it. There's too many hanging sentences, incomplete sentences, words that are not AML language. Some, the examples are in the wrong place. This is a research question. And you got to try and put as much information in this within the word count limit. So the examiner knows that you know this subject. And when the examiner reads this, the examiner can say, at the very end, examiner will say, I know exactly where Ivania is coming from. I understand. I can feel it in the paper. There are no feelings in none of these papers. None. And you're not gonna move an examiner with just dropping words in the paper. You have to immerse yourself in this subject for the examiner to try and give you at least 40 points out of this. So Ivania, tell me, what is the issue?
I feel as though the issue is basically
No, you've written it now. So tell me, based upon what you wrote,
second guessing
what
myself.
is it, right? What are you writing about?
Oh, okay. Basically how individuals are using the legal mechanism, technically legal, well, not technically, but using these mechanisms like the shell companies and the nominee services for financial crimes, well, in this example, money laundering, and the problems that law enforcement are facing because of them not being able to find the ultimate beneficial owner of these companies that are using the mechanisms.
Okay, I can do this again like the first class. When you did assignments 1 and 2, did you go over with your lecturers the questions and how to pull them apart?
With the first assignment, yes, ma'am.
And the second one?
I think yes, ma'am, he went through it with.
Okay, so based upon what you just said, if you want to write this paper showing that you have knowledge and you understand, what's the issue? Taking the same thing you just said, but saying it with passion. What is this issue?
Okay.
See, to write this, you have to feel it. So what is this issue?
The issue would be the problems faced by the law enforcement with, well, the problems being faced by the law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the issue.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the issue that you have to address. So when you go to the question, it tells you, evaluate the extent of the issue. So before you can evaluate the extent, you must know what the issue is. And you just said what the issue is, right? All right, so now go back to your paper and tell me, where have you stated the issue?
I haven't outright stated it. I just mentioned it later down.
Right. And what is your thesis statement? What is your approach to answering this question?
Well, for my first paragraph, I feel like the only thing I did, well, I guess it's not even so much a thesis statement. When I stated the mechanisms, but like you're saying, that's not the issue, so that doesn't even count as a thesis statement.
Right. So you have in this paragraph, you have this line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You said, companies can find ways to avoid identifying the beneficial owner of the business. And when the use mechanisms such as, see, and a lot of little words are missing, such as shell companies, nominee services, and trust companies have hindered law enforcement agencies from determining ultimate beneficial ownership of companies. Now, you can build on that as your thesis statement, because you're telling the examiner, these are the tools that you're going to discuss. And in that discussion, you're going to state the extent of the issue, which means you're going to tell the examiner that based on shell companies, nominee services, and trust companies, you're going to say that based on the extent of the challenges that the law enforcement agency face with these. So these are your 3 examples that you're going to use.
That's right.
Okay. So if I go to your next paragraph, they ask you, after you stated what the issue is, and when you state the issue, you have to tell the examiner that you know what the challenge is, because he says that it is significant. So based on that adverb, right, the way he said it is like significant, you have to now prove to the examiner that you know, 1, why it is significant, and you can qualify that. And qualifying that means that you must have read a document which spoke about either the number of cases that can't move forward, or a meeting that was held somewhere in one of these different international corporations that spoke about this. The examiner has to know that you have done some research on just that topic alone, the challenges facing the law enforcement and the FIU. Because based upon what you found in that research, and whatever vehicle you decide to discuss as being one of the challenges to the law enforcement FIU prosecutors, you're gonna have to tell the examiner, this is why this product is a challenge, is a hindrance. Is it getting clearer?
Yes, ma'am.
If I go to your next paragraph, you have, after the one with shell companies, then you have trust companies, shell companies, and nominee companies. It doesn't flow. If your 3 topics are shell, nominee, and trust, then you speak about shell, nominee, and trust.
Oh, okay.
In separate paragraphs. So when you speak about those 3, then you speak about the extent of the issue, how those products are used.
used in general or used in a way that it's causing the issue for the law enforcement? Well, I mean, I guess they tie it.
No. Yeah, you the way you're saying it, don't write it like that.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
You're gonna write about the product, and when you write about the product, the features of the product leads to not being able to find out who the BO is.
Yes, ma'am.
When you finish that, you've only just done the evaluation of the extent of the issue. You have not discussed yet the difficulties associated with tracking the ultimate beneficial owner. And then you have to go to the measures. So that's what I'm saying. As an examiner, if I was to read this draft, I'm not going to go and pick out, okay, oh, she have a measure here for shell. She has a measure over here for truss. Let me see, she have something over here. No, they're not going to do that.
Okay.
It has to be very clear. And you have to do more research.
That's right.
Okay?
Mhm.
So I'll come back to you with B. Go ahead. Tell me what else.
I know in my last paper, they was, I think I saw one of the comments being made where they said that I referenced too much. So I was trying to, but okay, never mind.
It depends on what you're referencing.
I
Like I
think
see you referencing all of these statutes
yes, ma'am.
on the footnote. Why?
I mean, because I didn't want to talk about them and not reference and then that be an issue. I mean, but I understand what you're saying. I need to do more research.
Yeah, you need to be referencing actual typologies, plenary reports. You just have the legislation. That's not giving your question any weight.
That's right.
Like, okay, look on the first page at the bottom. You have here, trust companies can act as a formation agent of legal persons. I don't even know what that means. They can also act as directors. No, they cannot. Where do you get this definition from? Because you have,
did I reference it?
yes, you have FATF money laundering using trust and company service providers.
3.
I didn't pull it up, but that is not how a trust company operates.
Okay, I get that. Well, yeah, okay, I get double check now.
So what you're looking for is, and you see what I said, you have trust companies here
Yes, ma'am.
in the same paragraph with Shell.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So you have plenty work to do. All right. Any more comments on that first one? You understand now? You sure?
I come back to you because I come back. Yeah.
Sure. You're coming back.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because I
All
feel
right.
like you say, I probably have to do more research, and then as the questions come, I'll probably email.
Yeah, you need to do deeper research on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Omar.
Yes, morning.
Morning. Now, I wouldn't tell you what I wrote on your paper because you may cry. Yeah, are you driving?
I am driving.
Oh, Lord. Tell me your approach to this question. A.
Okay, question A basically asks us to evaluate the extent what are the particular difficulties and what
The
measures
measures.
to assist. So I picked out a couple points to say what the issue is. And the first one I'm looking at is the taxation issue, where it is if you can identify who the BO is, you can't necessarily, or where they're from, it's difficult to tax them appropriately. That's the issue for their country of origin. And I went to the law.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there.
Right.
Stop right there. Stop right there. You're taking the question from a different angle. That's
Okay.
not what they ask you. That's not what they're asking you. It says in the question, listen carefully now, because you have to wrap your mind around what they're asking you. Criminals employ a range of techniques and mechanisms to obscure their ownership and control of illicitly obtained assets. And the key word there is techniques and mechanisms. Techniques is the structuring. Mechanisms are the corporate vehicles that they use and how they use it. Its next sentence says, identifying the true beneficial owner or the individual exercising control represents a significant challenge for prosecutors, law enforcement agencies, and intelligence practitioners across the globe. So what you did in your draft is you went to the means to an end, which is the rationale why these persons are being prosecuted. But this question is talking about it with regards to illicit funds. You're talking about someone who is earning monies in a company somewhere else around the world and not paying their taxes in their home jurisdiction. That is not what this question is asking you. This question is telling you is that there are persons who use these mechanisms, such as a company, a trust company, a foundation, a shell company, a nominee company, and they use it to launder their monies. And we cannot find out who is the beneficial owner because of the way in which they are structured. Now, for tax reasons, yes, there is a drive by the international community to know who is the owners of these companies in order for them to pay tax. That's going to the CRS and FATCA. This question is not about that. This question is, when prosecutors are trying to find out where is the money that these drug dealers, diamond smugglers, pirates, human smugglers have booked in banks across the world, they cannot find out where it is because their names are nowhere on the documents. That's what this question is about. Omar?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
I get your point that that's not a good one. I can take it out. It's not an issue. I continued into those very same things that you spoke to, some of them at least, the law enforcement challenge with regard to, first of all, identifying who the person is and then being able to prosecute them. I spoke to that in the third paragraph, I think. And then I went into the shell companies and the trust companies and the various, I even went into the fact that accountants and attorneys have been used to further conceal and obscure the ownership of these companies. I went into trade-based money laundering and how that kind of business is also used to obscure ownership. And then I went into what measures are being used to try to mitigate this. I spoke with the FATCO to go along with that tax thing. But since you said the tax thing doesn't make sense,
No,
I
no.
can take that out.
And when you this part about the trade-based money laundering and front companies, how are you tying that into law enforcement agents not being able to find out who is the BO? How does that tie in?
Okay, that ties in because you have these ultimate beneficial owners that own these companies, but it's a front company. So when you now trying to determine where the funds are coming from, where the money is coming from, it appears that it's coming from this legitimate storefront, and actually it's not. So they kind of obscuring or concealing their funds using these front companies. That's how I got it. Is that
Okay,
off?
so in your question, which vehicles are you using? Because I see you have shell companies, then you have nominee director shareholders, and then you have the use of specialists and professional intermediaries. And then you drop in the middle here, this trade-based money laundering and front companies.
I was trying to be inclusive to list as much issues as possible. With regard to,
No.
right.
You have to let the examiner know from the very beginning which mechanisms you are going to explain, how those mechanisms operate in terms of being used by money launderers, and how it facilitates this hiding of the BO. So you can have this trade base by making a comment, but they're still using companies.
Okay.
A company is a company.
I thought the fact that they're not using it, like how the how the nominee shareholders would use, that's a different kind of thing I was thinking. But I'll take that.
Yeah, a company is a company. And then there's a part about the intermediary and specialists. How are you tying that in with the products?
Okay, well, those persons include the accountants and the attorneys mostly. And we talking about how they use their skill to conceal the ultimate beneficial ownership by whether it's through what do you call it, second money laundering. Like for example, accountant could use a various system of banking instruments, whether it's shares or whether they use a fixed account or treasury bills or something to try to conceal these funds for these criminals. So they use that skill, the accountants, to conceal the ultimate beneficial ownership. And attorneys, they use their skill in terms of establishing companies in different forms, trusts, otherwise, to further conceal the ownership. That's how you.
But how do you tie that into the question when they asked with this comment? They said that they conceal it using these tools. you're gonna have to tie that into one of the tools. You have to tie that into either trust companies itself, or nominee services. You have to tie that into that, because that is
Okay.
not a tool.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's a service.
Hi, hello, Ms. Archer. Can I ask a question, please? Excuse me.
Go ahead.
From what I understand, financial institutions, and from the act, are we talking about prior to 2018 or since 2018? Because as far as I've been made aware, financial institutions, they don't open accounts that involve companies that don't have beneficial ownership information. When law firms incorporate companies, they have 15 days to furnish beneficial owner information. So we don't entertain the lack of information for beneficial ownership at this point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so and that was another
That would come in the measures.
So then we're talking about prior to 2000. Okay, if I'm choosing the Bahamas as my jurisdiction, I can't speak about nobody else and their issues. I could hardly speak about ours. So if I speak about the Bahamas, am I speaking prior to 2018 and our act, the act that we put in place based on the FATF's mutual evaluation in 2017, where they say you could just create a beneficial owner, or a legal person could just be created?
Okay. Remember, I hinted to you. Remember, I told you I cannot give you all the answers. And I could just guide you as to how to approach the question. And that's only a guide. I hinted it to you, I think it was in the second class, because the question was raised before. When you look at the question and you're evaluating the issue, and if you've read all the documents related to this, yes, it goes prior to.
Okay, so when you say all the documents, you're meaning this 2018 FATF
and all the other ones.
This paper.
There's other documents on it.
Okay, so basically we're talking about issues. If I'm speaking about the Bahamas, the issues that, prior to 2018 and our enactment and of the new law and all of that.
Would be in the measures. How do you deal with this issue they're talking about? Then you say how the Bahamas has dealt with it. And you could also add other jurisdictions, because other jurisdictions have done the same. Other jurisdictions who have this similar model to ours in that so-called offshore jurisdiction have had to do the same thing that we did.
Okay, so
that's what,
again, the issue is prior to 2018, because if we've all been working on it and we've had to come, we've become regulated based on it, and our internal audit processes and our regulators come in and audit us on these things. So we have to be talking about what used to happen before 2018 in general, right? With trusts and stuff like that. Okay, another question.
You could go further than that if you want to get a better grade. Tell me how.
I don't know. I running I'm an R on here.
Anybody on the call? How can you go further than that? Remember, till examiners wanting to see that you have researched this topic. This is a hot topic.
Okay, before we wait on that answer, Miss, another question I have for you too. Oh shoot, going right out of my head. Shoot, let someone continue. It's gonna pop back, and it was something that I
should have write it down.
So it was important. Okay, what else is here? July. Public registry.
These are your measures, right?
No. I'm starting from the beginning. We're talking about the vehicles used. Okay, like you say, do your opening, your thesis. We want to talk about vehicles used, whatever 3 vehicles you want to talk about, and how they have been used in the past. From
Mhm.
what I understand, I mean, from what I understand in the Bahamas, we don't even entertain shell companies, that type of thing anymore. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. My whole
But
answer,
hold on now,
answer
hold
to-
on now, hold on now. This question, notice the examiner didn't ask you to pick a jurisdiction.
it said, but at the top, it says all questions can be answered in relation to a jurisdiction with.
Okay,
with which
so that means that,
you're familiar.
right. So this question is a general question. This is an international issue. Your examples and your opinion and your qualifications will be based on your comments about the Bahamas. Agreed?
Okay, right.
Right. But this is a
uh-huh.
general international issue. So the examiner is looking for how immersed you are in knowing what other jurisdictions are doing. You don't have to go that far. Because you could go on any one of those other jurisdictions' website and see what they have done.
Right.
Cayman Islands is right around the corner.
Right. Okay. Oh, this was my question.
Go ahead.
The law, like for example, when was law firms and banks expected to become update with any current accounts that held companies and trusts and blah blah blah? When would they expect to become up to date with BO information? What was was there a deadline?
I don't remember there being a deadline. Once the law, once the law is passed, can't remember the date. They give them a time to be in
That's what I'm
compliance with the
wondering.
law.
And I think I heard it before, maybe a couple of classes.
There is a time.
So I'll have to research that. I was wondering when that was, because I think that's important to state as well in there.
It's I think it's less than a year after. Can't remember the exact date, but yes, they have to be in compliance.
All right, so I think that's important to put in there as well, right? To say that
yes,
blah, 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 blah. I might give you 1 point. Or they might give you a quarter point non-ICA.
Yeah, but they're looking to see if you really understand this issue. And to make your paper better, to really show the examiner, because no one else answered, you have to look at the mutual evaluation report of the Bahamas.
Yeah, they only had a 2-liner in the one for 2017, because the one after that, it just, in 2018, the follow-up or whatever, they just refer to better ratings we got on different things. And of course, we got a better rating on this. But I don't remember what the 2015 one said, but the 2017 just gave us a 2-liner that you could basically create people, and that there was no sanctions against persons. It's a 2-liner in there, that's it.
You sure?
Well, actually in the findings then, let me say that in the overview in the front, it's just a 2-liner. So maybe it had some more body inside.
Go in the document. Go in the document.
Yeah.
In the document, the document speaks to our legislation dealing with this and where we are not compliant. So then we turn around and we pass that legislation.
Right. And we could talk about all of that as meat for our, you say put that in the measures though, right?
Yes.
And I sent something in the group. I don't know if anybody looked at it. I sent something in the group, the FATF, on my phone, the FATF actually has a paper out where they were looking for responses on beneficial ownership. So because of what they're asking, or they want responses to, because they're looking to amend number 24. They're looking to amend number 24. So I think based on the questions they're asking for the amendments, that might lead us into a few answers as well for our paper, because these are improvements that they know that they need to make. So maybe we could use that as measures to assist as well. If we scan through that, maybe we could pick out a couple out of there.
The examiner is
shared that in the group.
Right. So the examiner is looking for not just what's in the manual, not just what has been written, but what is actually being discussed now?
Right, yeah, I have an
That's-
idea, I have an idea about this topic, but I just don't know how to put this on paper. And I'm
gonna have to
trying, but I
Put it
have,
on paper by using headings. Take the headings
yeah,
out afterwards.
and
There's
actually
some
they like,
headings
I
that
always
say
use
it.
headings and I submitted with headings and they like headings, it seems to be. So I've been using headings, so, and that's what I've been trying to do, but I guess I'm in an iron a little bit, but now I got a little bit more clarification too, but I shared the white paper that they're looking for a response to. I think they call it a white paper that they're looking for responses to. They had a deadline, so they know even their recommendation 24 has some work to be done to it.
Yeah,
And so,
because
and
right.
subsequently, yeah, and subsequently that means all the financial, institutions. So I think we can find some answers in there as well. For
Yes, and then you're gonna
next
have
year.
more amendments to the law. Now, see, the thing
Right.
about it is, when you look at other jurisdictions that pass similar legislations to ours, no one creates a legislation out of the air. It's all built
Right.
on something from somewhere else. If you go to their websites, then you try to see what comments they have been receiving from the FATF, from their mutual evaluation on what they have done. We weren't the first one to do it. Other jurisdictions did it prior to us. Is it really working? Don't
Yeah, they
forget
have-
now, we carved out, we
They
don't
have
want a
something in
public
here on
one.
bearer shares and nominee. Okay,
So
so some countries, they don't have BO regulations at all, right? Or some states in the US don't have BO regulations at all. And then some have registries, they have regulations, and then they have registries, and then some are
always
public and some are private like us.
always remember, United States has its own laws.
Right.
When you look
So I
at,
bet, yeah, okay. all
right, when you
so-
look at the Bahamas, the legislation that the Bahamas would draft would be in line with other similar jurisdictions. So it'll be the Bahamas,
even
Cayman.
though we do so much business with the United States, even though we do
United
so
States
much
have their
business
own
with the
law.
United States,
Remember now, within the United States, they have their offshore jurisdictions. The same way how they did FATCA by themselves. They're not a part of CRS. So to be
Right.
careful when you compare.
the UK, England and the UK, they have public BO registries, correct?
Yes, but that now when you start, if you want to compare what the UK and England has done, remember now, when you're talking about an international matter, you have the G20 countries, you have the G10 countries. We don't fall in those categories. They tell us what to do.
And pretty much from what I understand too, that we really can't have a public registry because our banking industry is going to just go out the window at that point. Because
Yes.
people do business here because of privacy, not necessarily that they could hide beneficial ownership information anymore, but it's still a level of privacy.
It's
So
a
pretty much
privacy,
we're never
yeah.
gonna-
It's
yeah, we're
privacy
never
with
gonna have
that to everything. It's not just who is the owner, is their transactions, who are their beneficiaries. That's the privacy they're looking for. They don't want to be kidnapped because in their local
Right.
banking system, they say, well, that one is worth 1 billion. No. They want in their local banking, they just have enough just for them to operate. That's it. That's why they want privacy. But of course, the money launderers have used it for their own purposes.
So when we're talking about the extent of the issue, we're talking about the vehicles used and how they're used.
Yes, correct.
That's when we, and where it's happening and where, okay, what is being used and how it's used, and we could also talk about where it's happening. And that would fulfill extent of issue.
Mm.
Oh,
It depends on the paragraph before, when you speak about the significance of the law enforcement agencies.
All right, okay, all right, okay, all right.
Because you have the significance with being, it's in twofold. That's why I'm saying I was looking for that now on these second and third drafts, because as you would have researched more, then you would have realized that, okay, this was prior to the legislation. Now, let me see what challenges the prosecutors are having now, that in some jurisdiction who passed it before us. Has it really improved? Has it helped? What is it that we are missing?
Also too, only the, what do they call it? The competent authority, which is what the Attorney General's office really has access to our registry, correct?
Correct.
And
Now,
how long do you know, for example, if I work for the FIU and I'm doing an investigation, how long, there's some what you call the form, is some sort of form you have to fill out to request information, right? From the Attorney General. How long, what's the turnaround time to be allowed access? Do you know?
no.
Because that could also be considered one of the measures
Access
to
by
assist.
whom?
If the FIU needs information, they just ask the Registrar General for information, and we wait for the Registrar General to come back with all the information we need from the private thing in portal. Is that how it works?
I don't remember them sending out any regulations. Are there any regulations?
Okay, what I'm saying is, it says that access to the private information in the portal, right? The whatever they put together, you know, all of the information, beneficial only the Attorney General's office has access to that. But what I'm saying is, if I receive an STR from the bank and all supporting documentation or whatever, as an officer at the FIU or whoever is the person that receives them at the FIU, and I turn it over to the police or whoever, if I need information or we're doing an investigation, I then have to call someone at the Attorney General's office or submit a request for information that we need to continue our investigation, correct? That's how it works?
No.
Okay, how does it work?
FIU goes back to the entity.
So who actually gets the private information that's held in the portal?
That is a request from another jurisdiction.
I don't understand. Like, don't we have, isn't that a part of challenges with tracking? Like, how do?
What do you mean challenges with tracking?
Okay, if I need to know, if
FIU?
Okay, yeah, FIU. If I need to know if I've been sent something to investigate, and I want to see who's the best. You're saying that the FIU doesn't need access to the private records for investigation?
When you, okay, so go back now. If you are sending something to the FIU, you're sending an STR, correct?
Right.
So in your STR, it's supposed to state whatever the situation is.
Right.
So you will not be sending an STR to the FIU without the names of the beneficial owners.
Okay. So what is okay, this may be a dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway.
Go ahead.
What is the purpose? Who at what point and for why, for why is the term, that anybody needs to access this private information then if at the STR level, we already have the beneficial ownership information? I'm missing something in there, so I might be asking the wrong question.
It's twofold. It's twofold. One is the angle that Omar was taking. You remember?
Omar's angle.
Taxation reasons.
Oh, okay.
So that's one. The other angle is when the United States or Europe are pursuing these criminals and they're trying to find the money. They're following the trail. So they could follow the money from Colombia to Bolivia to Mexico, and then it disappears.
Okay.
So
I
it's
understand
twofold.
now. So basically, it's the serve. It's for a global purpose.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
This is
All
a
right. It's a
big
global
issue.
purpose.
Right. So that's why I say this issue will always be on the table.
So pretty
They
much
gotta
when I
keep
file
fighting
my
it.
STR, I already have all of the information that
Yes,
I need.
FIU has
Right.
that.
Okay, all right. Does the FIU ever have to access that portal?
As far as I'm aware from experience, most of the issues, if it's coming from us, local institutions to the FIU, the information is already provided. Depends on what the matter is, then we'll go to the financial crime unit. The financial crime unit then deals directly with the financial institution, asking whatever questions in terms of transaction and how it happened. The other way around,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So FIU will then speak to financial crime,
Yes,
and then financial crime would go back to the FI if necessary.
yes.
Or the financial crime unit could ask for information from this portal if necessary. But it never
Well,
necessary.
they would have the STR. They would have the STR. They would have all of the transaction history. So the financial crime actually looks at the history, the record, what exactly happened, how did it happen?
All right.
Right. Now, on the flip
Okay.
side of that, the Attorney General can get a request from another jurisdiction saying that they're looking for accounts held by this person.
Right.
And they
okay.
would send that out to the banks. Or sometimes based upon the prosecution in the jurisdiction, they would have already gathered enough information from all around the world. And they said, there is an account for Mr. Joe Smith in the Bahamas. This is the account number, and this is the name of the account. I want all of the transaction from this period to that period, and I want any other accounts that's related to it, which means they want to know if money's moved from that account to any other account in the Bahamas. Whoever they are, they want to know who those individuals are.
Okay, all right. Totally different question. Just one question from some. I hope I'm not annoying the class. SARs and STRs. They are the same, right? Except activity can kind of go.
With transaction.
Activity is, well, transactions are transactions. Activity could be transactions as well as maybe an article we saw in the paper that our client is just doing all kind of foolishness someplace else. And and I want to know the difference basically. What is it has to be a difference. If they're saying T and the difference between the T and the A. It has to be at least some small difference.
It is a very small difference. We do STRs, but by law it says STR, which is transaction, because that's what they ask you for. The FIU will ask you for the transactions for a certain period. So that's all they want. But there are instances where you can actually send to the FIU an SAR, which means you're looking at the activity, the whole arrangement with the client. The whole arrangement is not making any sense.
Okay.
So it depends on
one
how
of our
you
questions
write.
asks specifically about SAR.
Yes, but then you start off by telling the examiner in the Bahamas, we file STRs.
I have a bad connection, Miss just say that again.
I said, when you answer the question, because it tells you to pick the jurisdiction of your choice, you let the examiner know that we are required to file STRs. So
So
when
when
you
we
when you file your STR, on the second page, it asks you what are the transactions that triggered your suspicion.
Right.
That's why it's called an STR, because you're talking about a transaction.
Right. But the SAR is activity because our
Activity.
question,
Mhm.
our B2 question specifically asks about activity. An SAR and not an STR.
Right.
Okay,
So
is there a
Go ahead.
different form? Is there a different form or the
no,
STR?
no, there is one form. There's one
Okay.
form.
All right,
You
so the
see,
activity is the entire show. Okay.
Yes. So when you go to the last page of the STR, it asks you to do a whole summary of how your suspicion is raised. And it depends on how you write that summary. That summary could be written as if it is actually an SAR, because you could be talking about the whole activity of the account.
Right.
And
So
not
for
just
example,
the transactions.
if I make a what is our threshold? 10,000 or 15? 10 or 15. It's
By law, it is 15, depends on the institution. It can be 10. That's if it is a domestic commercial bank. If it is an
okay. So
international bank, that's not the limit.
so if I'm making $9,000 deposits, right? It's not gonna trigger an STR, especially if my KYC and my CDD stuff, says how much I'm gonna deposit. But if I'm
Yes, it can.
if
It can.
if
It can.
every day I deposit $9,000, correct? Every single day.
Every day, every other day,
Right. Okay. So that's that's activity then. Okay. It
and
becomes
everything.
activity.
Right.
Okay.
But remember this now. You have, when you onboard a client, you have parameters set by what you stated would be the funds that will flow through the account. The actual automated system itself has its own parameters, separate from what you said.
Okay. Okay.
So,
okay. It's smart then.
Yes. So depends on what the system parameters are, you will have alerts.
Okay. All right.
And then that's also where the manual part comes in, because the people at the front line or the relationship managers, if it's offshore, they're supposed to be looking at the account. So if it's offshore, relationship manager should say, hold on, he got in $1 million today, another $1 million last week, another $1 million. What's this about? If it's a domestic bank, they say, well, hold on. Well, this man is a fisherman. It's not crawfish season, because you have to know your clients, know what they are doing. You can even use this change in government now if you're in a domestic. Okay. So they're now a minister, makes them a PEP, Ministry of so-and-so. Now, I don't know how much they earn, so let me go find out. Let me ask my supervisor, how much does a person earn as an MP? Will he still be earning monies from his law firm? Because you need to see how the account will change. And what makes it even better for you to support what you're doing is that when it's time for the next election, there is a declaration made. When they say how much they actually worth. So all of these things tie in together.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome. No one else said anything. What does that mean? They're sleeping or awake?
They're probably annoyed by me by now.
No.
Taking notes. Taking notes.
Taking notes?
Listening and
Okay. Angela B. Butler.
listening and Listening.
Listening. Angela,
Listening to him. Hello, you can hear
no,
me?
you cutting in and out. You cutting in and out. Okay, looking at your paper, Angela. Can you tell me where you went wrong?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. All right.
You having like an
Let
echo.
me tell you how I approach the question. Oh, okay. Okay.
You have something
I have an
open.
echo. It's still an
Yeah.
echo.
Keep talking and I'll tell you. I keep going in and out.
Any better?
Sounding so. Let's go.
Okay. How I approach question A. I looked.
You went out again.
The FIU, and what it's responsible for, and how the law enforcement has the difficulty in how the law enforcement has there been no charges in recent years with regard talked
You
about
going in and out. Why you going in and out?
the shell. No.
Why you going in and out
Maybe
though?
should I just
You on your phone?
no, I on my laptop.
That's why I
I'm
go
still
on my
going in
phone.
and out.
Not
Okay,
at
let
the
me
second, but once
can
you
I
start
just
talking,
go?
you going out.
Okay, I can just go on my phone. Give me 2 minutes.
Okay. Let me see who is next. I was finding Tree. Some other people. Simone. Take it for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Natasha, while we wait on her to rejoin,
Mhm.
Yolanda here, I wanted to know if you have a recommended or a suggested approach on how to outline on how to approach question 1.
Okay, you can hear me now better?
You still echoing.
Okay.
Yolanda, I don't understand what you mean.
A possible outline of how to approach the question.
No, we can't give that to you.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
I
Can't
still
do it.
recording?
Let's see. I don't hear it now, but wait and
Okay.
see. What's wrong with you? Anyhow,
Okay, you can hear me now?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Better. Okay, so like I was saying, the way I approached the question A, I did an overview of how the beneficial owner came into effect based on the pressures from FATF. And then I talked about the difficulty, I mentioned the FIU and the difficulty that law enforcement has in terms of they haven't had any criminal prosecutions like in recent years. And then I talk about the shell companies. The shell companies.
Why haven't they had any?
Why they haven't had any?
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had any because of they haven't had any because, well, companies haven't really been, the FIU haven't really been doing any investigations, I guess.
No. See. Quite a few people make these statements and you can't support it. Is that really true what you say?
That law enforcement haven't had any
Yeah, because I attended a seminar, I think maybe about 1 or 2 years ago from the FIU. And they were talking about, there weren't a lot of, and the police force was there, and they talk about how there wasn't a lot of prosecutions regard to money laundering and
Why?
those transactions.
Why? Was it connected to the FIU not knowing who is the beneficial owner of companies or
Yes,
trusts?
yes.
That's what they said?
Well, they didn't say that. They just,
because they couldn't say that.
no, they didn't say that. No, they just said, I don't know, maybe because they haven't prosecuted any or information. I don't know really why they haven't done it, but that was my understanding.
So you
But
can't, okay. So now you see when I say you make statements that you cannot support.
okay,
No, they have not prosecuted because they didn't have any STRs that they were able
Right.
to take to that extent.
okay, okay.
And don't forget now, only after they passed the recent POCA have they been charging persons under that legislation. Before they couldn't. It was under the penal code.
Right, okay. Okay. And then I thought,
Quick question. Sorry, just one quick question so we don't forget that point. It was you said it was under the penal code before? That was what,
Yes.
prior to the new POCA is 2008. So prior to 2018, prosecutions were made under the penal code.
Right. But now they're done
what
under the
would
Proceeds of Crime Act, under money laundering.
right, right.
Oh, okay, so that made the difference. Okay, all right.
Mhm.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's okay. And then I talk about the shell companies, how, they can obscure the ultimate beneficial owner. And I talk about the nominee directorship and how they can do that. And I give an example of an institution. Maybe I shouldn't mention the institution name in there.
Is it
And,
public?
no, it's not public. So I'll just
No.
put a company that I'm familiar with.
Right. Now, before you move further, in your
Okay.
very first paragraph,
Yes.
like you said, you spoke about local. This is an international question.
Okay. Okay.
So your local part would only come in when you comment about the actual products
Okay.
or your
Okay.
measures or
Okay.
tracking. You can give an example. But this
Okay.
is a global issue.
Okay. So how I started off and I said the Bahamas and all that. So don't take that out.
No, take that out. This is an
Okay.
international question. Your Bahamas comes in when you start talking about your products and your measures, because the
Okay.
Bahamas is all you really know.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
like Maria was saying, you can compare that to other jurisdiction, but has a
Okay.
similar legislation to what we have put in place.
Okay. 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 And I was listening to the one where I have with specialists in accounts. I'm gonna take
Yeah, you did what Omar did. Yeah, take
I'm
that
gonna
out.
take that out. I'm gonna take that out. And
Take that out.
when I talk about the limited liability, then I think what I need to do more is in terms of measures. I need to think that I approached the question in the correct format.
Hold on, I coming to you right now. Where's I noticed you have no footnotes. Where are you taking this from?
The information.
Yes.
I getting it from the mutual evaluation report, some of it. And some of it coming from our policies and procedures.
This is an international question.
Right. Right.
There was an article. There was hold on. This reminds me, I had something I wanted to point out to you all. Let me see if I can remember the name of the document. Hold on 1 second. Have you all in the is it chapter 1 or chapter 2? They give you a list of different treaties and organizations where they started money laundering, such as what is called Unidoc or OnDoc or whatever name. Did you go there?
If I went there? No, I didn't go there.
I mean, anyone in the class?
Sorry.
No, anybody. The United Nations website on drugs and crime. Did anyone go there?
Yeah, I went there.
Dimitri, you went there.
Yeah, that's an evaluation of countries related to. I think it's Unidoc, or I think it's. I got to double check the site again, but I think it's some. They did an evaluation of local, jurisdictional practices, and one of the things that they highlighted, they would have highlighted strengths and weaknesses, deficiencies. It's actually one of the things that they said, and they tied it into where we were falling short in terms of enforcing the law, and they would have said the number of STRs we have versus.
But I don't see that in your paper.
Actually, it is, but I didn't spread it out. I referred to it. I think I referred. I'll check it again. Maybe I haven't added it yet because it's a draft, and I have a lot of my stuff written down on the pad. But the draft was sent to you to see if I was going on the right path. Actually,
yeah, we'll come to you next. You next. Okay. Because the United Nations website on drugs and crime, it has a lot of publications. Angela, what happened to your mic? It making noise again.
I cut it. I don't know. Okay, much better.
Okay, so if you go to this website, it's unodc.org.
UNODC.
Okay, it has a publication on asset recovery handbook, a guide for practitioners. It provides practitioners with how to guide for recovering stolen assets and draws on the experience of a wide range of countries and legal traditions.
Okay.
And they have the barriers to asset recovery, an analysis to the key barriers and recommendation for actions. Recommends 8 strategic actions and other recommendations for policymakers, legislators, and practitioners. They talk about PEPs, preventive measures for banking sector, income and asset declaration, management of return assets. So those same websites at the very beginning that you all should have gone to.
So they would
read
be
some of these.
right. So they would be part of the measures, preventative measures.
You got to read them and see what they are.
Okay.
But this website is talking about retrieving assets. So obviously it's going to lead you to how the prosecution has issues and their challenges.
Okay.
So if I go to your shell companies, what are all of these bullet points?
And
these red flags.
Okay, I was just saying how criminals could use the shell companies. So that's not relevant.
I think you should focus on what the question is asking you, and that point about the difficulties associated with tracking ultimate VO.
Okay.
So you need to pull out of these the bullet points that address that issue.
Okay.
See, that's why I keep telling you all to put these little small headings so you could focus, because you're putting in things that are not relevant.
Okay, so only mention the ones that are difficult. Okay.
Difficulties in tracking.
Okay.
And then I see a lot of people do this too. When you come to each one of your tools or vehicle, You have shell companies, they inhibit law enforcement. Then you have nominee directorship, inhibit law enforcement. You gotta find some different words.
Okay.
Okay, if I go to nominee directorship, you have this sentence. There are prominent financial institutions in the Bahamas that act as nominee directors, right?
Right.
Institutions that serve as nominee has little or no involvement in the actual running of the company. What are you trying to say? Couldn't you tie the two sentences together?
Yeah, I could do that.
Because that first sentence isn't necessary.
Okay. Okay, right, where it says prominent financial institution. I
Yeah.
could take, yes, I got you. I understand that. Yeah.
Okay. And then you say
Yeah.
the company can open bank accounts well, we already know that.
Right. Okay. We just want to focus on the difficulties. Okay.
The first thing is under each one of these headings, you're going to focus on the extent of the issue, which means how these products are used. And why they are used. Remember, whenever you answer a research question like this, it's always those same questions, and you have to pick them out: the how, the when, the why, the who. But whatever one of is relevant to the question that is being asked. So if you're doing shell companies, they want to know, what is it? Why is it used? That's what they're asking you. So you don't have to go through all of these things. It's too many words. And you're saying the same thing in this different ways.
Okay.
Okay, take out that specialized company. So
Yes.
at the end of the day, I don't see, unless you can tell me, where did you put the last part? Where's the measures?
Like when if you look at where I talk about, I talked about the OECD and FATF. I know I need to put more information in that. Where I said put pressures on the Bahamas. Well, but you said it's an international, so I talked about the Bahamas here, and then I guess I could talk about other jurisdiction as well.
But you see how you did that? You tacked that right under the intermediaries, no heading.
Right. Okay.
So it runs under that. I saw it there, but I said, why is this running in here?
Right. And I think I need to elaborate and do a little bit more research on that, preventative measures.
Now, don't forget now, you have this measure here, this paragraph, but the measures has to do with each one of the tools.
Okay, so all right. So once I talked about the difficulties, then in the same under the shell company, I would talk about the measures that are put in place to drill down
for each one of those.
Right. To drill to the ultimate beneficial owner.
Okay. And the measures would be the laws that we have put in place.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I get that.
You getting that? Oh, yeah. Lord, finally. All right, Dimitri.
I get this question, I thought about this and do so many drafts, but now that, we could go over it a little bit more and how you better guide me on it. So I think I know what I need to do now.
And when you finish writing on the paper, because the paper isn't that long, but when you finish, let someone read it.
Yes. Yes.
Give it to someone to read.
I always do that. Yeah. Okay.
Because once someone read it, they can tell you, but I don't understand what you mean. But why this sentence like this? Because in some of these papers, they're like half sentences. There's a full stop there, but the sentence is not a full thought.
Right. Okay.
All right. So come, Dimitri. Your turn now.
Yes, go
ahead. All right. Now, I am looking at, where's this thing here? Okay. So you have listed your introduction.
Okay.
Your introduction is two sentences that are not connected.
Okay.
You've been listening to what I've said already, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you need a proper introduction. Then you need a thesis statement.
Right.
And then you need to talk about the actual issue, which is the challenge to the law enforcement. So from your thesis statement, you're using shell companies. Then you have shell companies again twice. I see you did the same thing. There's front companies.
The second one is actually a shelf company.
Oh,
That's
shelf. Yeah, okay. Legal persons, legal arrangements. Okay, no. Legal arrangement is not a tool, so take that out.
Okay.
Legal persons? I don't know what you mean. The tools are either a company, a trust, nominee services. In some jurisdictions, there are foundations. But you need to talk, and when you speak about companies, you direct the examiner as to the type of company you're talking about.
Okay.
So if I look at the very first one, you have shell companies are trust. No. Trust is something totally different. That's a vehicle by itself.
Okay.
And then, like we said earlier, we don't have shell companies in the Bahamas anymore. We had them in the early 70s and 80s. We don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Now we have companies, legitimate companies. That's the IBCs.
Right. Right.
Which is the vehicle of choice for our international clientele.
Right.
Because of anonymity.
Right.
So in here, you really want to talk about the IBCs. Because you have limited liability companies, but you want to talk about the IBCs.
Okay.
Now, this statement you made right here, be careful. You say, let me see, under shell companies, line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you mean, such as correspondent banks and wire transfers? What are you trying to say?
Let me read. Let me catch up. Let me catch up.
However, you say, however, they have become.
Well, you say we don't use shell companies anymore, so it's kind of, moot.
No, you're going to change this. You're going to change this and you're going to say limited liability companies.
Right. Get my thoughts, such as correspondent banks and wire transfers. And well, that statement is saying there are some challenges connected to correspondent banks and wire transfers.
I figured that's what you was trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that ain't what that sentence is saying though.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if you want to put it in there, you can't tie it with all of this.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so.
All right. Clean it up. Next.
Okay, then you have the shelf companies.
Mm-hmm.
And even internationally, shelf companies could be, again, another IBC, another limited liability company. Because you have a lot of persons, they go to their financial corporate service provider or their law firm, and they want a company to do one particular transaction. That's it.
Mhm.
When it's over, it stays on the shelf. Someone else wants another company. So all they do is, okay, let's change the name. I want to call it Banana Tree Company. I have a company you could use. Let's do change in shareholder, transfer the shares, change the directors, and that company is moved on.
Isn't it also used, because I've researched this and I've questioned persons on this. Persons actually create these companies and don't really do anything with them.
Yes.
For the purpose of establishing sometime that, hey, I've been in existence from 1972.
Yes,
And,
they do that
and then-
too. Or you
and
could have one that has been incorporated from whatever year and sitting on the shelf, you just pay the fees. Or like
Right.
I say, you could have one that's actually was incorporated from whenever. Someone used it once, a different person used it another 5 years later. They're all still shelf companies. They sit on the shelf. Nothing is
Right.
happening.
Right.
Now, front, you got this from that same thing again, trade base. Now, don't forget now, when you read these typologies, they have labeled them. They have labeled the tool based upon the activity.
Okay.
It's still a company.
Right. Right.
So the
Okay.
tool is the company. So
Okay.
by you saying front company, you're not giving examiner nothing new.
Okay.
And then the other two is out. Those are not tools. So you either going to talk about a trust itself, because I see you put trust in here.
Mhm.
So you gotta have to explain to the examiner, what is a trust? And how does it hide beneficial ownership? Because that's how they see it. They see everything as being either hidden or too confidential.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So before you speak about these things, you have to tell the examiner what's the issue. So it's the introduction, it's your thesis statement, and then you tell the examiner what's the issue, and then you go into your tools. And when you go into your tools, your companies, and your trust and whatever else you're going to talk about, you need to tell the examiner how those things do not provide the law enforcement or the FIU with knowing who is the beneficial owner. And remember now, listen to the conversations we had with Angela and with Annie and with Maria. Listen carefully. This issue is an issue that is a hot topic. It's an issue that we've been addressing for a while, internationally and locally. And so you have to write this paper. How many times I told you all from the first or the second class? You have to write this paper at least 5 times.
Right.
Because you're gonna write it based upon what you find first in your research. Then you're gonna refine it so that it's actually answering the question that is asked. And then you're gonna sit back and say, now hold on. The typology was written in whatever year. We're
Right.
now at this year. There is a gap in here. Now let me look at my approach to this question to see what is in here that I have historically that has changed now. And how has it impacted what it is that they're looking for? You can't do that in one draft.
Right.
So you have to really take your time and answer this question. Okay, so let me go to your measures. The measures supposed to tie into the tools. So if I take your first one, which is companies, IBCs, what measure are you proposing to the examiners can be used to help the law enforcement agencies in identifying who's the beneficial owner? And that's where you tie in what the Bahamas has done in their register of beneficial owners. Being mindful that it is not public for the whole world to see. So you have to tell the examiners based on your research, if there is any other jurisdiction similar to ours
Mhm.
that have actually done that.
Okay.
And if it is the consensus that all the other jurisdictions, their whole, I guess their whole trust is similar to ours in that you have to go to the Attorney General's office, which means that their Attorney General has to come to us following the lines of whatever agreement is between the two countries. Then you could say this is the approach that centers like the Bahamas have taken. Try not to use that word offshore.
Okay.
We claim ourselves to be a financial center. So that the examiner is really looking to see if you know this issue.
Okay. So, all right. The fact that I would have said something from a perspective, because we was talking about from the global impact of this problem. And 1, 2, and 3, I would have, even though I would have touched on just jurisdiction in terms of what CFATF, we're a part of CFATF and possibly standardizing certain things and being consistent with certain things. Still, I need to speak specifically to what we have done because
yes,
you're splitting. I want to split the here, but I wanted to be precise because we're talking about in one instance we're talking about this jurisdiction, and then in the next breath we're talking about the global impact of it. So when you refer to measures, you walk in a thin line because you want to speak. The answer can be both. Can it be both?
Yes, it can be both.
Okay.
It can be both.
Okay.
Now,
So
go ahead.
I just saying the suggestions I had, even though I need to tie the information that you've given and brought to my attention. I'm talking about these suggestions about because I was 1, 2, and 3 about the global measures.
Link your measures to the tools.
Okay.
Because you can when you state with your international measures, then in your third or fourth sentence you could say the measures that the Bahamas has taken.
Right.
You don't have to go into, let me see this here, where you have all the deficiencies and
which section are you on now?
This is where you have the Bahamas.
Okay.
So you can lay out your paper in different ways.
Right.
Right? But it has to be coherent. So if you're speaking about if you're going to separate your international measures from your local measures, you still have to be talking about the same tools.
Okay.
It's not a dump in a summary of international and then dump in a summary of the Bahamas. It has to relate to the tools.
Okay.
Because that's what they're looking for. If I'm a prosecutor and I'm reading your paper, okay, so all right, you're talking about these companies, limited liability, these IBCs that have anonymity. Okay, so how are we going to address this problem internationally? Okay, and how is it being addressed locally? Okay, but if I'm reading this doesn't speak to none of those tools. It's just a general blurb. No.
All right.
They're going to take off points for that.
Okay. But at what point can legislation be even mentioned? Because there's the legislation and then there's the penalties. And part of the question is I'm looking at the question.
Yeah, you can put that in. You can put the part of the measures the Bahamas has put in is the legislation and the penalties.
Okay.
Now the register beneficial owner pertains to who? It pertains to companies.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And trust. So you gotta tie it all in together and make it tight.
Okay, moving down to persistent concerns. This will be the next paragraph, and mitigation. What?
Hold on, because I was running over the ink. Oh, persistent concerns. Okay, and mitigation. That's this page here. That you could put no, the persistent concerns, you could put that as your conclusion, you know.
Okay.
Your mitigation has to tie into your tools.
Right. Okay.
So the same way you have your international measures and your thing, you have to weave them in. Watch your word count. Make sure that when you answer the question, remember what I said, you put your little subheadings related to the question. You take them out when you print the final paper, but you're using those as a guide. Make sure that you do not add in things that are not relevant. That's going to take up your word count, because they're going to mark based upon those same little subheadings that I'm telling you to add on the side. So you got to make sure you answer the question. And then if you have some word count left over, you could tuck in a little thing here, there.
Right. But part of the question is evaluate the extent of the issue and measures that might be used to assist with the problem. So obviously they're asking for perspective here, and they want,
yes.
They want to know what the candidate is actually feeling from this, and what ideas. Okay.
And so, then don't put these dash. Like,
okay.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. The same way you have this passion in speaking it, you need to put that passion in this paper.
Okay.
The passion, you could read part of the passion, but when you come with this point, dash, like it's an afterthought, show the examiner how passionate you are about this matter. Because it could be two. See, each one of you can write it in a different style. You could write it by saying, if we don't deal with this problem, we're going to lose our business. Whereas Annie could come and say, or Maria could turn their paper around and say, guess what? If we bow down to make it a public register, our whole financial center is gone. We've been attacked for the last 40 years. What else can we take? Someone else could take an approach and say, guess what? Everybody is an individual. Don't I, as a human being, have a right to keep my business confidential? There are different ways, but you have to, once you've done your research on this, that passion comes from the stand that you take in your thesis statement. And that's what tells the examiner, let me read this paper. And at the end, the examiner should say, wow. That's how you aim to get a distinction. That's how you aim to get a merit. You have to show the examiner you are passionate about it.
Yeah. I have one last question.
Go ahead.
It was an article I came across. I had read it before, but I didn't read it in depth. And it's the fact that the Auditor General, I'm sure you're aware of it, had requested of the past administration certain information regarding the dispersing of government contracts during COVID.
Yeah,
there was a lot of it was a gray area. There was a lot of concern there, and they never got it. And that was I never got closure on it because I just read the article, and I didn't read a follow-up on it. And of course, we live in the Bahamas, so getting information can be challenging. But
it's political. It's political. So put on your political hat now.
And I'm a political person, but my
no, neither am I. But you got to look at where it's coming from.
Right.
They say they're going to criminalize. They say they're going to criminalize whoever it is that's behind these contracts. Okay. Now, the majority of them who are speaking, they are lawyers. They know exactly how companies are structured. So they know that when they go to the registry, there's going to be a nominee shareholder on that register.
Right.
That nominee shareholder belongs to a financial corporate service provider who may be one of their fraternity brothers law
Right.
firm
Right.
or accounting firm. So they know that. So that's just a political ploy. Do not let them fool you. They know exactly who owns it.
I'm okay with that, but the fact that this thing that concerns me, and I'm sure persons globally reading, they reading this
I
stuff
know,
as well,
I know,
right?
I know.
So I'm saying, what message is being sent
The
by
wrong one.
the legislators, by local legislators themselves,
Mhm.
right? When they're not complying and they're not transparent. And I use that part of my thing too, but it wasn't to point fingers, but it was to reinforce the ongoing challenge of
But they'll have
identifying
to, they would have to bring the matter to the Attorney General's attention, actually bring a legitimate case forward and request the information. They haven't done that. They know
okay.
exactly what they're doing.
Okay.
Information is there.
All right.
It's there. Simone.
Hi.
Oh God, what does that mean?
I know. My anxiety is on another level right now. So
What happened?
I can't even. I can't. I know. I sure.
Is it related to this paper?
Of course it is. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yours is the same thing. Intro, thesis, and what is the issue?
I was trying
No,
to lay it
yes,
out that
right.
way.
And remove that sentence, but the Bahamas is the chosen jurisdiction.
Okay. So those first two paragraphs that I have there, what would you consider those to be? Not even an introduction?
Well, first, you're not going to start a research paper with the word while. It's not like you waiting by the beach. While. No. Wrong word. Second sentence is fine.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to use the second paragraph as your thesis, then you're gonna have to take off those two last sentences.
Oh, okay.
And I want you to weave it into the first one.
The first.
This paper.
Wait, sorry. You saying take out the last sentences and weave them into?
Yeah, you have to make it smoother. It's too choppy.
Okay.
You have sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3.
Okay.
That paragraph supposed to make me want to read this paper.
Okay.
It doesn't make me want to read this paper.
Okay.
It's choppy. Now, then you went into your tools, right?
Right.
Your corporate vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, you need to state the issue.
Okay.
You have to talk about that challenge by the law enforcement agencies and the FIU. And that 1 or 2 paragraphs that you speak about this issue, this burning issue, tells the examiner that you have researched it beyond the report that they have listed. I think I told you all in the very first class, you have to be able to go and find out what the law enforcement and the prosecutors are saying, past and present. And everybody just seemed to be like glossing over it. So to the examiner, you're writing in a vacuum. All you're writing to me about is products and some measures. But you're not addressing what I'm asking you. Why is this a challenge to the law enforcement? What is it? Is it that 10% of their cases are not being fulfilled? Or is it that 20%? Is it 40%? Is there a particular case that you could actually demonstrate to the examiners that you did some research on where the law enforcement agent or the FIU was unable to prosecute because they were blocked by not knowing who was the beneficial owner, or they could not verify or confirm it?
And you're referring to the local FIU or any FIU?
Any FIU.
Okay,
This is an international question.
okay,
And then you tie in the Bahamas.
okay.
But you have, in all of these papers, you have to tell the examiner what is this issue. And it can't be vague. Your corporate vehicles,
Mhm.
don't use these words, but possibility. The very first one, 1, 2,
Okay.
3, 4, 5. There is
Right.
a possibility. No,
Okay,
there's a possibility of anything and anything.
okay,
No, don't use those words. And then when you enter your second vehicle, you say it offers several benefits. What do you mean? For each one of these, you have to state how it operates. When you explain how a vehicle operates to an examiner, based upon the way in which you explain how it operates, it tells me the vulnerabilities to money laundering. So you don't have to use the words money laundering, because the way in which you describe how it functions tells me that it is vulnerable to money laundering.
okay.
And then if I go to your third one,
Mhm.
you say it allows members a high level of freedom to determine how ownership, I don't like that word, freedom.
Okay. Here's the word. Okay,
Because now you're speaking about LLCs. Don't forget, now each one of these products has its own language. So if you're speaking about LLCs, you're either talking about shareholders or members' ownership, the structure of ownership, or the control of ownership. Versus when you speak about trust, you're speaking about either the trustees, the settlor, or the beneficiaries.
Mhm.
Because remember, the settlor can be a beneficiary.
Right,
So when you're speaking about foundations, then you're talking about the donor and the beneficiaries. So you have to be careful of each one of these tools or vehicles has its own features. And it depends on the way in which it actually operates or the way in which it is structured, makes it vulnerable for money laundering or terrorist financing. So then you went to challenges.
Mhm.
Now this challenge here should have been before you spoke about the vehicles,
Mm.
because that's how the question is worded.
Okay,
And then you did it for the Bahamas. You need to do it internationally. Then if you want to add the Bahamas, you can.
okay,
And then you make a statement in that first sentence on a first paragraph on challenges. And well, first there's no footnote nowhere, but anyhow, you say local law enforcement has reported challenges with obtaining beneficial ownership. You need to support that.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I was initially thinking that I mean, I understand now, but that
Like
all
tack
of,
these little words on.
Right. Yeah, I was
over.
just thinking that all of my, cases, when I talk about law enforcement and everything, I thought that all had to be local. So,
No, but you went international in the second paragraph.
right, yeah, well, yeah.
You have two sentences, and the
Mhm.
second sentence is saying the same thing as the first one, and just in a different way.
Mhm. In the second paragraph?
In the second paragraph, where you have world over.
Uh-huh. The first sentence is saying the same thing as the MER sentence?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Okay.
You're not telling me nothing different. We're talking about being able to prosecute, you know.
Right.
So how does the second sentence differ from the first one? What are you telling me different? Because you're talking about LLP.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it indirectly says the same thing. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
the second one is saying how.
But that's not the issue, you know. The issue is not LLP. The issue for the law enforcement is not legal privilege, legal professional privilege. That's not the issue. The issue is who owns these companies. And then, like I was saying to Dimitri, you need to be able to tell the examiner how many cases that they are faced with where they do not know who's the legal ownership in the past, and now what's it like in the present, since many countries have legislated their register beneficial ownership.
Okay.
So in an essence, what the examiners are looking for, they're looking to see if you understand the progress that has been made on this topic and whether or not that progress is effective. And then the other paragraph you have in that section,
Mhm.
you need to support that. Because you're saying law enforcement in some countries
Mhm.
does have the power to obtain beneficial ownership. However, the information is often inadequate and not maintained. You need to support that.
Okay.
You can't make a statement if you can't support it. So after that, you have addressing the challenges. What do you mean? They didn't ask you to address the challenges. What they tell you to do? And you're supposed to be talking about what? The difficulties. You're supposed to be talking about the difficulties in tracking the ultimate beneficial owners.
Right.
Where is that?
In how I put the addressing the challenges. You mean in that section?
I want to know where is it? Where did you put this part? How do you track ultimate beneficial owner? Where did you put that? Because I didn't see it. I don't see it in here. Okay. So addressing the challenges, I assume you're talking about the measures.
Yes.
So why are you changing the people headings?
I don't really know why. I guess because I put challenges in my mind, I just said, okay, addressing, but okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, so first sentence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 word, no, is not established. Why you pick that word?
Probably because I couldn't think of a better one. I guess.
Oh,
I mean, establish.
and then see, you see, watch your tense, because you're saying local competent authority should be able to access.
Right.
You need to tell the examiner in your introduction of this same talking about measures.
Right.
You need to tell the examiner the measures that the Bahamas has put in place. Because it's not that the local competent authority should, the local competent authority can.
Right.
In the past, they couldn't. In the present, they can, because it's required by law. And again, I say, when you're talking about the measures goes with the products that you've spoken about before.
Right. I realize I don't have that.
Yeah. What happened? Eat a nice big hamburger sandwich, get a nice big bottle of Coke. You don't need no wine, 2 glasses of water, and start over.
Oh my gosh.
It's aiming high, aiming high. So that last part where you tacked in what we have done, you try to put that underneath your products.
Okay.
Now your last paragraph, be very careful. You have to support that. You're making a statement saying that the Bahamas has made significant progress. Is it that significant on an international scale? Does the OECD think that is significant? Don't they want public? They don't want private. So do they view that as being significant?
Well, yeah, not on.
They do?
No. I'm saying not from their point of view. No, I guess in the Bahamas minds, we've come a long way, but yeah, not internationally, no.
We don't really want to do this, If we want to keep our business and grow our business, we don't really want to do this. We do it because they say we had to do it, but do we really want to do this? Think about it. In all of these, whether it's an FCSP or it's a bank, we do know who is the ultimate beneficial owner, don't we?
Yeah.
We all know who it is. So it's not as if we don't know, just that they want to know. No one has no account in their portfolio where they do not know who's the ultimate beneficial owner. Because we no longer have bearer shares. Everybody knows. We have all the KYC on everybody. We just feel that it just shouldn't be made public. And the onus of paying taxes is on the individual. And when you come in the customs, the onus is on you to declare what you have.
Yes.
Okay. And if you decide not to, then what? If you get caught, there are consequences.
Right. Okay, so my red paragraph, does that have any relevance?
Your which one?
My paragraph that's in red.
Areas for consideration.
Yeah.
You could put that in your conclusion.
Okay. And then,
Because you did not put, well, you could add that, you could add it in your measures under the second vehicle.
okay. And then the paragraph before that, it talks about,
It's the second one? No, don't put it with the second one. The second one was covered.
okay,
That would be the first one,
okay,
because the first one is not listed.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my fourth paragraph under measures to assist. Is that necessary?
1, 2, 3, 4, the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
That part,
Mm-hmm.
that paragraph you could put as the last, but I would caution you,
Okay.
because if that is not the stance of the Bahamas,
Uh-huh.
like you have not seen that written anywhere,
Uh-huh.
like in a newspaper or press conference, that is the next step,
Right.
don't write that.
Okay.
Because then you're making an assumption.
Okay, okay.
If
Okay,
you want
so
to say in your opinion,
right, that's what I was going to say, because they're asking us for measures to assist, so that doesn't necessarily
Then
mean concrete things,
but
right?
then you need to say in my opinion.
Okay. Okay. Jesus.
What happened?
I still nervous. I'm still nervous. Still very nervous.
All right. Did I miss anybody?
I think it's maybe 2 more people, maybe.
No, I think I did all the papers that I have.
Oh, I was going by who's all present in the class.
No, that's the papers that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Now, B and C for everybody was not too bad, but in B and C, make sure you start B and C by stating your jurisdiction and the sector. C asks you for the jurisdiction and the sector. B only asks you for the jurisdiction. So you let the examiner know whether you're Bahamas, and then whether you're talking about a bank or trust or gaming, lending, credit union. You have to tell the examiner, because then that directs him or her. You can't just leave it vague, and then 4 paragraphs down, you drop something, the regulator, comma, central bank. No. Now, the thing about B is asking you for explain the consequences of failing to report. And everybody know the first thing is you're going to talk about the fines. A lot of you have the fines there, but I wanted to be clearer. If you're talking about an entity that is regulated by the central bank, so you know, poker is for everybody. You know, the FDRA is for everybody. Then you come to the regulatory side of it. The regulatory fines are what they call administrative penalties. So you set out the examiner that number one, the jurisdiction, number two, where you actually work or the reference that you're using, and then you give them the relative legislation that falls under where it is that you are working. Don't tuck it in all over the place.
So isn't the Proceeds of Crime Act, don't they have the same fines reflected in that in the FTRA?
What you mean?
The FTRA and the Proceeds of Crime Act, they speak to the same fines, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's
But
no,
then
I'm
you have
just
to-
saying.
But you're right. So what I'm saying is that when you write it, you write it to the examiner and you tie them together. It doesn't, you don't have to, they're not looking for you to spend 2 paragraphs writing out fines.
Yeah, we just I mean, I usually reference fines.
Reference it. No, some people actually
Yes.
have it written in the whole paragraph.
Just reference the fine because there's a bunch of administrative penalties based on your
Right.
position and yeah.
So
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ivania has 10 lines. It's too many. It's just too long.
You mean just for that particular paragraph, talking about the fines?
Legal repercussions, yes.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about fines.
That's right.
Okay, so they're asking you explain the consequences. So you start by saying what the obligation is, and then you go into the consequences. And so your consequences should be clearly underlined, each one. So when I pick up your paper and I want to know, okay, let me see, what did Ivania write are her consequences? The introductory paragraph right after you spoke about that obligation to actually report, you should have said, these are the areas. Then you break it down. So you spoke about it. In the first one, then you write that long spiel, too long, and then you wrote as if you are speaking to the examiner. You say, be then look at, no. This is report writing. So when you finish this paragraph and you summarize what are the legal repercussions, you have to then write it in the way whereby it tells the examiner, oh, next paragraph is on this. If you're not going to do it that way, you need to put headings.
Okay. We allowed to?
Yes.
Or I know. Okay. So, okay, like how right after that first paragraph, how the next one I talk about that next risk, I could put a heading saying that
Yes.
particular risk and then go start speaking on it.
Yes, it's clearer.
Okay.
Now, this
They
last
have all
paragraph.
the ICA guidelines. The ICA guidelines, they tell you exactly what they allow from what they don't allow.
Okay, thank you.
Write that down on your paper now so you don't forget.
I just wrote it just now.
ICA guidelines.
They also allow bullet points too, not overly done, they say, but they also allow bullet points too, and they save word count.
Mm-hmm. But you
All right.
can't put a heading, but you can't, see, it's different. Say if you put a heading, you put an introductory sentence or two and then bullet points. But you don't just don't put a heading and drop some bullet points.
Okay. Mhm.
Not for a 50-point question.
Yeah.
Your last paragraph, my words say here, jumble up.
Hold on, let me go.
Yeah, it's just, I
I
don't
mean, the
know.
last one.
Yes, your last one. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because okay.
It has to
I
be
just was
clear.
trying to summarize everything, but
You're
I
trying to
kind of failed.
summarize, but you're repeating, and that last sentence, I don't know what that means. Evaluation. I don't know what that is.
Mm. This is just a long sentence. Hold on.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Okay. How do you, okay, I'm a maths person. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but how do you necessarily summarize? Anyway, I'll figure it out. Never mind.
You sure?
No, because I was gonna ask, how do you summarize without repeating? But
Give me an example.
okay. Like how I mentioned all of the points in the, I guess, the body of that first section. And then I come to the end, and then when I start talking about this, just for example, the monitoring systems, like how I try to like briefly say what they do, but I feel like that's repeating technically what I said up there. Or you mean just reword it, or
You talking about banks?
yes,
Your
ma'am.
paragraph on banks? Your paragraph on banks, you're talking about mitigation. So how do you mitigate against those risks? You have the first one, the first sentence you have, steps such as, and then you went to the second sentence and you talk about the same thing.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
And then the third sentence, I don't know what that means. What were you trying to say?
We were on the third paragraph, right?
No, I'm on your last paragraph.
Oh.
Banks can employ methods to mitigate. You have training and then training again.
Okay.
And then you have, yeah, that last sentence, I don't know. I think I know what you mean, but that is the wrong word.
Okay. You got me scared for true.
Don't get scared, just get better.
I feel with fear, you develop yourself with fear. It forces you to improve.
Yeah, don't get afraid, just get better. Whose paper is this? Dimitri. Dimitri on?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are. Pop back up to the top. What is this you doing in B?
I'm sorry.
What is this you're writing?
What are you referring to?
In B.
B. Okay. I'm gonna looking at it right now.
Because what you have done is you have demonstrated legal and operational risk. Because you state the consequences, right?
Mhm.
You stated the risk, but you never explained the risk.
Mm.
You gave examples of it, but you didn't explain it. And these examples can be in your footnote.
Okay. Plan the risk.
Yeah, you didn't explain them. And then you need a mitigation plan. That's not there.
Okay.
So that was missing from yours. Let's take this one. Yeah. Angela Butler.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I know you here.
Okay, I have my B up.
Okay, so you just jump straight into the risk.
Yeah. Okay. So I need what well, I see you talk about mention the obligation to report. That's something I could include in there as well.
And then you have the penalties at the back.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
It's fine. I would have written it to the front, but everybody has a different style. At least it's there.
Okay.
How's the word count?
For which one? For B?
For the same one, B1.
B1 with the mitigation.
Your mitigation plan number 1. I have a question mark. I don't know what that means.
I have about 700 for like B1. I need more.
Isn't that too much? Or that's okay?
For
Because it's
B1,
divided into 2.
right. I mean, I could go smaller. I don't, the mitigation one, regard to.
Mitigation 1, I don't know what that means.
I'm saying that they should have dedicated policies in place to identify and to look so that, you know, if there's negative news, you know, staff should have code of ethics. Why? Number 1 is too big.
But how does that tie into your explanation on the previous page?
You mean well, I was just addressing the reputational risk aspect of it.
Right. So your mitigation for reputational risk is having a dedicated process and resources.
Yeah. Well, I say process and resources and policies that focus on identifying, evaluating, and managing and reporting potential regulatory risks.
A dedicated process, a dedicated processes, resources, and policies.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I guess I could elaborate and say what it is.
No, but I'm saying, what does that mean? And just in English, a dedicated processes, resources, and policies.
It's internal policies and procedures when you have reputational risk, what companies should do.
But how do you link that to reputational risk? What I'm saying, go back to where you say, what is reputational risk?
Okay.
You say reputational risk would have a negative and adverse impact on the financial institution.
Right.
Such consequences could result in the exit of existing customers,
Right.
the ability to attract new customers, loss of revenue, possible closure.
And I gave an example.
And you gave an example, but then your mitigation says
Okay. Okay.
you could achieve or you could mitigate against reputational risks by having dedicated processes, resources, and policies that focuses on identifying, evaluating, managing, and reporting potential reputational risk. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
The last sentence makes sense.
Okay.
Your mitigation for the second one is that for operational risk or this is just overall?
I guess it's overall. So I need a mitigation for each particular risk.
It'd make better sense because
Okay.
I'm trying to tie it in.
All right.
A robust. And why you have been training for various sectors? Isn't training required for everybody?
Yeah. 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 I could take that out.
And then you don't need the first sentence, no the required law, because you're qualifying that with the next sentence. Number 4,
Okay.
know the required law. Why do you need that? You're saying the same thing in the next one. If you know the function of the the thing that you mentioned here, that you don't need that.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes, I clearly understand.
Okay.
Understand. So what I could improve on making sure the mitigation that I have risk there, mitigation.
And for regulatory risk,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the regulator. Watch the word that you use. You have the word sanction.
Okay. Okay.
Because you're speaking about the central bank. What's all this word here?
Okay. That was just quoting, I just referencing the central bank guidelines. That's what the guidelines, that's what that's where I get my information from, basically.
The consequences of failing to report. Is it just in the guidelines?
No.
Isn't it in the administrative penalty regime?
Yeah. Yes.
Is it there? And then the next sentence you have that they can increase cost. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, because
The cost is not to the institution. The institution doesn't pay for it.
What do you mean the institution doesn't pay?
Yeah, you said the regulator can increase cost. What you mean? Right. Cost to who? What cost?
Cost to the institution. We pay fees every year to the regulator. And if you, I guess if you, and I guess if you have some kind of risk or whatever, they say, look, maybe I could increase your costs.
How?
Increase your fees. Because
No, the fees are set by statute.
okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Your fees is based on the on your license and how much profit you make. if it's a domestic bank. Other than that, it's a set fee based on the type of license.
But I guess it all comes back to penalties. Yeah,
Yes, penalties.
yeah. So I could remove that.
Okay, and then you went to revocation. Remember, look in the act. The regulator has other powers,
Okay.
and you could give a footnote for that. You can say the regulator and the supervisory powers. All right. Did I miss anybody? Omari.
You started off with me, but I never got to B and C.
Yeah, I about to do your B now.
Okay, okay.
Okay, y'all. Okay. You don't need to put in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It's just the Bahamas. Your sector is what?
My sector is kind of tricky in that my sector where I'm paid is law enforcement.
Okay. So
But
what did
I
you
don't.
choose?
My sector that I'm choosing is like a credit union, law enforcement, cooperative credit union type.
Okay, that's fine. So your regulator is?
That'll be the central bank.
That's right. Okay. So when you say financial service practitioners, what you talk about?
Persons that offer financial institutions.
You read, okay, so you use the language.
Okay.
And you don't have to say guided by specific legislation. Just state what the legislation is. So you can start by saying in the Bahamas, financial institutions are obligated to report. You see all these words you put, there's too many words. Get to the point.
Okay.
And the acts were not developed. It's legislated. And then I don't even think you need to put that in there. You just need to state. Now where you went in from the third paragraph, the proceeds of crime, and all those
Yes.
sections, none of them. None, take all that out.
Take all those sections out.
Yeah. Failing can stay. You start saying failing to report. Now you're beginning to answer the question. Okay. And similar to some of the other ones. Each one, you don't have to keep saying refers. It's repetitive. You could change the first sentences for the other two risks. Your example under operational risk, what is that? Is that an actual case?
No, that's my interpretation based on the definition. My understanding of that.
I read this, but I don't understand how it would work operationally. Because if it's an operational risk, then it's going to the company is going to come back that you've lost money. And this is not saying that you're losing money. You're transferring money to a shell company.
What I'm saying is that you're going to lose money afterwards. As a result of it.
Operational risk normally have to do with transactions, like fraud, where a company actually loses money, or it's an error by a staff that they should have wired out 50,000, but they send 550,000. That's operational risk.
Okay, so the error in this case, I mean, if you're certainly the expert, but I just want to make it clear that in my description of it, the error in this case is the failure to report. But would that still constitute operational risk or no?
Well, the failure to report could be there was a transaction, and based upon the transaction itself was suspicious. But you incurred a loss. I'm just trying to tie this into the consequences of not reporting.
All right, if you got that in from right there, I'll just take it up because I mean, what's there is there. I can just use something else if I can find something else.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm just trying to see how it ties in. And you don't have where's your mitigation?
I would have included a sentence or two in each of the various consequences.
Okay, I saw the last one. Let me see. See, oh, right here I have it underlined. In compliance risk, you don't need all these regulators. You just need one.
Okay.
Okay, so you see how you start compliance risk refers to the possibility that the firm will be considered to have violated a law or regulation.
Yes.
Okay, so what you need to tell the examiner is, how does a compliance risk arise in this situation? If you do not report it, what is that compliance risk? What will the central bank do? Because we're not talking about on-site inspections. And then you say the same thing again. When an institution under review is found wanting corrective measures will be taken. Repeating the same thing again. So you haven't explained compliance risk from not filing.
Okay, okay.
So you got to look at that again. All right. And I could stay right on your thing too. I looked at B2. Remember, I told you on in the last class, I need you to sit down and write out what should be in a system for reporting. What are all the elements that should be there? And then take out the ones because I am looking at yours. And you have to describe it and then evaluate it. So what are your key elements? You have here a system of internal controls, independent testing, designation of an individual, and training. That's your 4. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Correct, correct.
system of internal controls. What's the paragraph? What's the second paragraph about?
Second paragraph of B2. Let me see.
Yeah, because see, in your first paragraph, you said the most important element is customer identification program. And then you went, and then you said there are other key ones. So if I look at your second paragraph, you're talking about a customer identification program. And you say that's a key element for filing a report. How?
Okay, well, the first paragraph goes into first KYC and knowing a customer and how it's important that you get this KYC information in the beginning of the relationship so that you could know what to expect from the customer. So when you find something that is not or is unlike what the customer described in the beginning of the relationship, then you're able to say, you're able to identify that this is something that is suspicious. So the identification is almost like another word of saying, know your customer, understand what they, what is expected from them in terms of what they require of you, and then once you follow that behavior.
So to me, when you start talking about this customer identification program, you've gone too granular. That's too granular. If you were tasked today and they said this is the system for activity reporting, do you think on that list they would have customer identification program?
I can't really deal out. I think first you have to be able to identify that this is a special activity. And I went into how you can identify that.
Uh-huh.
By knowing your customer, knowing what to expect from them.
But is that a key? Is that a key step in reporting?
That is a key step as a primary step in reporting, because you have to first be able to identify that something is wrong in order to report. But if you don't agree, I can look at something else. But if you don't know what it is you're looking at.
No. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand how that is a key element for an effective system. Because you onboard a client, right? And you risk rate that client based upon the information that is given to you by the client. You put that information in your computer system. The computer system then tells you whether or not the client is meeting the parameters set in that system and the parameters that they have ticked on their application form. They tell you if it's in compliance with those things. So my question to you now, what makes an effective system for reporting? This is your reporting now. So doing the customer identification program is all a part of following your policies and procedures. It's just one element of that.
Okay, all right.
So that's what I was trying to see what you were getting at. Because you're looking at, if you were sitting there right there and they say your job is, if you were sitting in a bank or you in a credit union, and your job is to make sure that you file 5 suspicious activity reports a month. What are your key elements in making sure that's done?
I see where you're going with that.
You see what I mean? You gotta look at the bigger picture. The second one is fine. Take out that second sentence. Criminals. You see where I am?
Okay.
Your 4 words, take them out. This next sentence, when you say they will use many tactics, you can use that as examples of how the system can be used. But you need to tell the examiner what exactly that means. The second key one, you need to tell them what that means.
The second key one, it's not clear.
Effective internal. And if you and You need to talk about exception reporting.
Exception reporting.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
On the internal controls and alerts.
Okay.
And then when you go to the next one, you don't have to say this individual. Independent testing is no individual, that's a team. That same sentence with this individual. You see it on the independent testing, take that out. And you don't need to say they would be able to, just state what it is that they do. The next one, where you have a designated individual, that individual has a name. Agreed?
Okay. Okay.
These
Agreed.
individuals, and then
I
these
think-
individuals, you know exactly who you're talking about.
I think I believe I would have mentioned it later down in the report, but I can fix it.
Later down
I
in
can fix
report
the
where?
flag earlier.
In the same one? No.
Yeah, you no.
In B2? No. The last paragraph. The second and the third sentence is saying the same thing. You're repeating it.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. And if I go to your C, I don't understand that introduction. You need to answer these and go straight to what the question is asking you for. The role of the compliance bracket AML function is. Just answer the question,
Okay. All right.
okay? These ones you have here. You said the ones that would help protect against money laundering risk. Okay. And then how do you improve culture? You have to give some measures. They want you to evaluate the measures, and then they want you to say how you can improve and develop. And you gave me one paragraph. And that's because you did the other ones too long.
Is that
Your analysis?
Actually, I don't know if it's me across clear on my end. Maybe it's me.
I know. Yeah, your analysis of the compliance function, you may have to summarize that. Because you've not given enough to the second part. Oh, Sorry to say I have another class. Okay. All right, I have another
Thank you.
class now.
Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta, for C, and most of the answers, the drafts I got, they were the same way. The second part asks you to evaluate what measures can be taken. So you need to state the measures for a compliance culture. And when you state it, they want you to comment on it. And then they want you to say how you can improve and develop it. So you ended this question. Your last paragraph is not talking about culture. You're not talking about how to improve and develop. And remember what I said about the culture. There's a whole section in your manual on the culture. Culture starts from the top. Who is this? Angela B. And Angela, your functions, you have to pick up the ones that protect against AML.
Okay. I list too many?
You list too many, yes. And they ask you to analyze it. So you just drop them there, but there's no analysis at all.
I have to go and explain each, maybe pick out 4 or 5 and explain each one. And how to do that.
Yes. What's this one? Dimitri, you don't need this long introductory paragraph. Just go into answering the question.
That's number 3. C,
That's
sorry,
C,
C.
C, yes. So your first part's supposed to speak about protecting the firm.
Okay.
I don't see it. I don't see it here. You have the culture part. But where's the first part? You have lots of words, but I mean, when I read all of these words, what are the key functions that protect?
Okay.
You have some things in there, but it has to be clear. And so
Yeah.
put in all these little thoughts. You like to put these little thoughts. Trickle down. What is that?
What's that? What's that phrase, sir?
Trickle
Oh,
down.
trickle down. Trickle down.
No. I'll put that in there. Yeah. So just make sure it's clear. What are the functions? So the examiner could see that you've actually listed it. Now you've done the other part, which is the culture. I didn't understand the one about the errors.
Errors, okay, errors.
Acknowledge. You want it as a separate point, or you want to add that into something else, into training?
No, that's a separate point for me.
Okay. But I mean, how do you make that a separate point? If you're talking about culture.
Well, it's kind of dispelling the culture against sweeping stuff under the rug, or
I understand what you mean. That's what I say, but where are you going to tie that in? It can't stand by itself. There's nowhere when you read about culture where there's a heading that calls error.
okay.
You know, put it under leadership as an example. Isn't that a sign of leadership?
I can tie that into that. I can. I guess.
Being in that role,
Right,
and being
right.
able to speak to the function itself when it recognizes that there is an issue,
Okay.
that they let everybody know.
And it is a part of discipline, so yeah, I guess.
Yes, it is. So you can put it there, but it's not a heading by itself.
Okay.
Okay. And did I leave anyone out? Okay. All right, I have my next class. I'm late. They're gonna die.
Thank you.
I wish you all luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
But
very
I'd
much,
say-
Ms. Acha.
Thank
And
you.
have a
Me
nice
too.
one.
Get
Bye-bye.
started.
Thank you, Ms. Adra.
Yes. Okay, not a problem. Okay,
Bye. All
I'll
right.
see you all next year sometime.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.